Okay, we're live here. I'm your host of the Crypto Mining Tools podcast, Scott Offord. We have our co-host, Ethan Zerka here.
Hey everybody, Ethan here. And I'd like to introduce our two guests today. We've got Brett and Greg. Greg, tell us a little bit about how you fit into the world of crypto.
Well, I'm a miner, Greg's a miner, and takes all of our time pretty much right now.
I got into mining back in 2013, and I've been started out as a home hobbyist miner, and I've become kind of an expert in all various types of ASICs, and I've done some custom software development. I've also done repairs of ant miners, so a little bit of knowledge of everything. I also have a mining farm.
Tell us why is it so noisy there right now?
Because we're inside a mining farm. We're in the conference room.
Okay, yeah. So you're not allowed to show us, but behind you is like a really big modern mining farm that you guys are at today.
Yes.
What are you guys there doing today?
Well, right now we're in ant miner or ant training academy to get Bitmain certified.
Okay.
Hashboard repairs on the S17. It's the first one in America. Bitmain's here. Actually, we have a representative from Bitmain sitting over here. And Greg is the lead instructor of that class.
Okay.
And, we are wrapping up testing today and tomorrow, and then we will be certified Bitmain engineers level 1.
That's awesome. How many people are in the class today?
7.
Yeah, this class is the first that they had in the U.S., so it's relatively small just to kind of do a test run of everything.
Sure.
You're breaking ground there. That's awesome.
Are you guys certified to do other Bitmain products, not just the S17s? Like, can you work on the S9s and the S7s and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, I have experience with most of them. I actually owned every ant miner since the first S1.
Right.
But I've been trained on S9s, L3s, D3s, S9s, T9s, E3s, power supply repair, and a little bit on the Z9 minis, which are not really something that you can fix on site.
Mm-hmm. Now, in your expertise, since you've had all this experience both in mining and also you're very knowledgeable about the repair of the miners, what is the most common point of failure that you see in these miners that maybe something that people could change the way they're setting up their facilities to get more life or a lower failure rate?
I mean, the most common failure first, I would say, is probably power supply related.
Okay.
A lot of those failures usually are due to like high humidity type of conditions. So if you're able to control the dampness of the air in your facility, that should help prolong the life of the power supply.
Okay.
The second most common failure would probably be a fan. And obviously if you keep filters or make sure there's no debris inside your machines, or you clean it out every so often, you can prevent some of those types of failures. And then after that, it's mostly a hash board, and to be more specific, it's usually like 1 or 2 failed ASICs on a hash board, which will cause the board to go down. Now, in the new S17s, there's other types of faults that can arise, like something called an EEPROM error.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Will also kind of just shut the whole machine down. Similar to what you would have seen on an S9 in a kernel log, where you get like a pick error. Mm-hmm. You'll see the equivalent of that in the S17 is the EEPROM error.
Okay.
Would you say that the S17 are more intuitive and easy to troubleshoot, or is it about the same as like an S9?
I would say
it's a little harder, actually. There's more pieces that can go wrong with them. Hash boards, like in an S9, that you could interchange between units. It's not as simple to do on an S17. So if you have one board that's down on your miner and you want to swap it out, unless it's the exact same version, it may not work in the machine.
Okay.
Between S17 and the S17 Pro, there's some different information that's stored in the EEPROM. So if you were to mix those boards between a machine, it would just shut down.
Oh, really?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Now, I've also heard that there's some sort of logic going on with the power supply too, and
Yeah.
that I've had people report that they need to have all of their power coming from, like, it can't be split up between outlets. It all needs to come from the same feed.
Well, it's a little more than that. The control board is actually connected to the power supply, whereas on the S9, everything was just a standard 12-volt DC power supply.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of the manufacturers are starting to move towards a PSU that can vary its voltage depending on the operating mode that the miner's in. So,
Mm-hmm.
the S17 Pro power supply will go anywhere from, say, 14 volts to 21 volts, depending on the modes it's in.
Okay.
When you first boot it up, it'll start out, it'll operate in 21 volts, and then it'll start dropping itself down and usually settle around like 18.5, 18.4 volts. And they moved away from the PCIe connectors, and they use a standard bus bar. And
Okay.
so there's a communication cable that'll go from the control board to the PSU that actually tells it, when to throttle the voltage up and down, and then it actually takes readings out of it that you'll see in the kernel log that just indicate what voltage the miner is actually running at. So it's also made it a little bit more complicated in that you can't use third-party PSUs.
Yeah.
At least not yet. Nobody's figured that out.
Yeah. Definitely.
Now, so a question about the two of you. You guys have another venture that you have together, right?
Yeah, Fix 256 is something that we do. We travel around, and it's kind of like SEAL Team 6, but for Bitcoin mining repair. So,
Okay.
we can drop in from anywhere and fix pretty much anything. So,
Yeah, I mean, basically, we've all come to know a number of guys in the industry that are maybe their own mining farm operators, have a pretty unique skill set around the mining space. So we started to put together a group of these guys that are all familiar with everything. From the,
Mm-hmm.
I put together my first training class. So all of our recruits that are part of our team have gone through the training class with me. And that goes through all the in-depth knowledge of how to read the kernel logs, how to do part swapping and diagnostics. And a client could hire us on a project basis to come in. If they want one guy, two guys, five guys, we'll
Mm-hmm.
arrange that. We'll come right on site to their location. We can do the repairs, or we can do deployments. I actually hired my own company since I was doing this training this week. We had to do a deployment of S17s, and I hired 3 guys from our group to come down there and help out while I was tied up here.
Nice.
Now, Greg, can you walk me through the process of what it takes to swap out an ASIC on board? Like, what are the steps? You remove the hash board, you've diagnosed, like, this one ASIC is bad, it needs to be replaced. What's the next step?
Sure. So it's a little more involved than that. I mean, there's 2 types of failures that you'd see. One where the hash board's just missing completely from the miner. And then you'll see others where, like, it's missing a chip. Maybe it'll have 40 ASICs instead of 63 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see a hash board that's missing chips, typically you can just go find that chip on the board, take the heatsink off, solder a new chip on. And there is a what they call a test jig that you can use. It's like a control board that's rigged up. So you can just plug one hash board into it, click a button, it'll run that diagnostic test and tell you if it's reporting all the ASICs and if it's hashing correctly.
Now, is that something that is easy to buy, or is it,
Yeah,
only
is
the
it like
cool
very
people have those?
specialized? Yeah.
I mean, normally it's only available once you've completed the training through Bitmain directly. They'll open up access to repair tools and purchasing ASICs and other parts that you'd use to repair circuit boards or control boards. So typically you can only buy it from Bitmain once you've completed that class.
Okay.
Now, when you desolder an ASIC chip, are you using like a soldering iron, or is it like one of those heat gun things, or?
Yeah, you use a heat gun.
Okay.
I mean, basically each chip has a number of really small little pins on it. And
Okay.
first step is you have to apply some solder paste to the pins on that chip.
Okay.
And then you go and you put it in place on the board, you heat it up with the heat gun, and it'll cure itself in place, basically. Then you
Cool.
attach the heat sinks. On the S9s, one side's connected with solder paste, the other side's connected with this black type of epoxy. S17s, they did the epoxy, and it's all just solder paste on both sides.
Now, can you tell us like, the benefits of repair versus replacement? Like, is there a cost advantage that hosting farms get?
Well, I think it comes down to really the economics and the machine you're trying to fix. So, for us recently, with the price drop of an S9, it's been more consolidation of customers' equipment. So we could go on site, separate out good working hash boards, put them in miners that have broken hash boards. The cost of repairing and the time to repair an S9 hash board, when an S9 is probably around $90 right now, it's not very
Yeah.
But obviously on an S17, it's a much more expensive machine. Probably the same amount of time to fix an S17 hash board as it is an S9. There's a greater benefit there. So initially, when you have a warranty from the manufacturer, something's new for the first 6 months, you'll probably just go through the warranty channel.
Sure.
Once you start going outside of warranty, it would probably make sense to go do the repairs yourself. And if you were in a scenario where maybe you were consolidating miners, you may have a batch of defective hash boards. You have somebody just repair that batch of boards, and then you can use them as replacements for other units. So we always, in my farm, have bins of replacement hash boards that we can go out and field service a miner, swap out the board, put all the broken ones in a bin, and then we have another crew of guys that sit over
That just
the
goes
weekend,
through them.
repair them, and whatever they bring back to life. We typically do a overnight quality check where we run them on a miner and just make sure that they don't fail. Once they pass that check, they'll get ready to deploy back out in another machine.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about your own farms, your own individual farms. But first, let's just talk about our sponsor a little bit here.
Yeah, sure. I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor, NovaBlock. NovaBlock came here in North America in August of this year, 2019. And in 4 short months, they've managed to become one of the top 15 public pools in the world. They believe that as hash rate gets decentralized from China and spreads around the world, that they want to be a part of that by, giving users transparency and also educating users on what pools are the best for them. So thank you again, NovaBlock.
Yeah, and so one other thing, just go to their website. On the top right-hand corner, there's a sign-up button, and you can register for a new account. You can actually get a permanent reduction in your pool fees down to 1.8%. So if you just use the code OFFORD18, that's offered 18, when you're signing up, then they'll know, and you can get that 1.8% for life. Otherwise, if you do have a lot more hash power than the usual person, you could probably even get that 1.8% even lower. So go sign up, give it a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, NovaBlock. All right. So yeah, guys, let's hear more about your miners and what you're doing.
Well, my mine is something that I built all by myself a couple of years ago. It's actually when I met Scott, because I bought a bunch of Dragonmans, and he helped me out a lot through that process. Anyway, me and my brother built it, and we at one point had a little over 300 miners, but now we're down to about 150, and I'm slowly upgrading to the S17s and letting the old inventory retire. I learned a lot through that experience because I wasn't an engineer or anything, so I had to. I did a lot of trial and error learning, and very expensive.
Yes.
But I learned a lot of lessons that could really save some people some time and energy. If you just
what is the single most important lesson that you've learned that you can impart with our audience?
In regards to Bitcoin mining, I would say airflow. Understand pressure and airflow. And I was really freaking out about the temperature. It gets hot in Charleston. I have a mine in Charleston. It gets up to 100 degrees. Last year, the hottest day was 97 degrees in my mine, but I was fine. Everything was fine because I have the right kind of airflow. So temperature is, these miners are not, in fact, they like to be hot. And the new S17s, you'll notice, you won't be able to start them in the cold. So anybody who has an outdoor mine or whatever, going to see that you're going to have to warm them up before you start them up.
Huh.
Yeah.
Because the S17 has they're more finicky and more sensitive. Even with the chip removal process, you have to use lower heat thresholds than you would with an S9.
Okay.
Because you'll fry the chip. So
Now, Brett, when you were getting into mining and building out your farm, was that during a bull run or a bear market?
I would say bull run. Because I got involved in crypto in 2015. Well, I started paying attention during the 2014 crash, and then I didn't do anything about it until 2015 when I saw the bear whale incident, where it dropped to 300 and it slowly went to like sometimes it went down to 275, but it held 300 pretty strong. And when I saw that, and it never went any further, I was like, okay, this might be legit. And then I started looking into it a lot more heavily and started buying it up. And then in about 2016, I bought my first miner. And then
oh, wow. That was a good time.
I pretty much went all in on that, on the mining. I was a federal employee for quite some time. And it was very stressful. So I was like, man, this is my opportunity to do something else. So I removed myself from that situation, and now I'm a Bitcoin miner.
Which is not stressful at all.
Right.
It's not near as stressful as what I did before. So
yeah.
Huh. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So you and I met in Miami at that Bitcoin Miami conference a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And then you bought those dragons, and I hope those ROI for you.
Buy my dragons.
Yeah, let's get them sold.
Let's sell them to you. Yeah, what was the question? Sorry.
Oh yeah, I was just wondering. I said I hope you were able to get an ROI off of those.
Oh yeah, I think so. They've been it's been 2 years now running. I mean, they were making some good money there for a while. So
yeah, in the beginning, they were doing pretty good. Right.
Yeah, they're still running.
Greg, I'd like to hear your story. So now that we've heard Brett, let's get your story.
All right, my story is a little interesting. So I first found out about Bitcoin. I was at a party over the summer at somebody's house, and I heard him and some of his coworkers talking about Bitcoin, and it was really not like mainstream when I got involved. So, I kind of listened, and when I went home, like I usually would do, and just said, "Hey, I got to Google this and figure it out."
Right.
So, I formed and owned many technology companies, and I had wholesale accounts with, big companies that supply graphics cards and motherboards and things like that. So I started ordering GPU cards to my house and staying up all night and just figuring out how to get the miners to run. And within a few weeks, it, became a complete obsession, and my whole basement was filled with GPU rigs. I had my electric panel out. I still have some of the remnants of this stuff in my basement from when I started. It then started to take over my server room at my office in addition to my basement because I ran out of space. And then I outgrew that, and I started going on the quest of where could I get the cheapest power. So I'm from New York, and the power rates there are terrible. I think when I was mining, I was paying around 22 cents a kilowatt.
Oh my goodness. Ouch.
So I had to kind of be strategic in how I went about doing things to try to make a profit. I located a town about 20 miles away from me that owned their own power plant, and the power cost there was about half what I was paying. So I rented a warehouse there and turned that into my first official mining farm. And as Brett said, there were some lessons learned about exhausting. And I ran dozens of miners with a real small air conditioner and some exhaust fans and some cheap Home Depot shelving.
Okay.
So I ended up giving up that mining farm. That was probably around, I guess it was 2016. So before the market really took off.
Before the big, nice bull run that we had.
Yeah, I had. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the KNC miners, but I had a lot of KNC miners, and I bought them during a recession when people who paid $10,000 or something for them were selling them for $2,000 or $3,000. So every time I had spare money, I was just buying them, throwing them in my farm. And I actually ran some of those miners for about 2.5 years and sold them for the same amount of money I paid for them.
Nice.
The market started to come back. I sold them.
Yeah.
Pretty much sold off all my miners at that point. Just went into trading crypto and being more active on some of the forums. So I've been on Bitcoin Talk since probably 2014. Prior to that, I was actually on Litecoin Talk long before Bitcoin Talk, but I was always involved in both, and I really got heavy into Litecoin first and then switched over to Bitcoin after it, and have always kind of mined both in tandem.
What was it like buying and selling equipment back then? Like, obviously, I think probably the Bitcoin Talk forum was a good source for you there.
Yeah, I mean, most of the deals then took place on Bitcoin Talk, and there were guys selling their equipment on eBay or other avenues. Which I think I bought probably like 4 or 5 of my KNC machines off people on eBay that were just like, "Man, I bought this thing, and I'm never gonna make my money back, and I just want to get rid of it." Yeah. And KNC for a while was a really good company, and then towards the end they started having problems before they went under. But they made this product, the last run, which was called the KNC Titan, which hash rate wise was probably about the equivalent of an L3, but we're talking 2 or 3 years before the L3 came out.
Oh, wow.
But it was a little bit heavier on power. Efficiency wasn't quite the same. But they were very temperamental machines. They would have chips that would, go offline frequently. So even then, I started working with guys that I met on the forums on how can we optimize the firmware and how can we stabilize the machines. And I had a lot of them, so it was a really good test case to really see if the algorithms that we had put together on tuning them worked. And that was kind of like the early generation of the auto tuning that I think exists in the S9s today. We were kind of tuning each core or die on a particular ASIC to get maximum performance out of them.
That's the only kind of auto tuning I like.
Yeah, I mean, and now obviously as the miners have become more complicated, it's I think more important than ever. I mean, optimizing voltage, frequency, airflow, temperature, all those things. Really, the operating range of a miner today is much narrower than what it was. I mean, my first S1 was 180 gigahash, and I mean, I've seen guys running them in the coldest parts of Canada, and they would run no problem, and then no block them, and they were fine,
Yeah.
And then after that warehouse, I went on and I built a few others, and then I moved as a client down to Atlanta, which is where I have my mining farm now, and they brought me in as a partner to run the division focused on cryptocurrency mining because it was a traditional data center. And now we've got about 15 megawatts running at our site.
Okay. Wow.
We're one of Bitmain's largest customers in North America for the amp boxes. So our farm is primarily comprised of amp boxes.
I've heard a lot of farms using the amp boxes, and I've heard some different reasons as to why they're chosen over just conventional rack based mining. Can you tell us your thoughts, like why go with the amp boxes versus a traditional just rack mount mining?
Sure. I mean, before the amp boxes was even an option for us, we did our own version of an amp box, which was like a prefabricated building that we put together. It holds about 1,500 S9s, and all the racking and everything was done. And the cost per spot was probably not that dramatically different than than the amp box route. Maybe amp boxes came out to be a little bit cheaper, but the big savings was mostly on the labor because we didn't have to hire contractors and outsourced electricians to come in. We have our own facilities guys, and with the amp box, they had everything ready. It just showed up. All you had to do was run a power feed to it and internet and plug it in and turn it on, and we were ready.
Yeah. Plug and chug.
Yeah, so it was a little bit faster to build, and labor savings, not having to outsource contractors and just do it all in-house. I still think that our design of the building that we put together using exhaust fans is actually better than the amp box, just because it has like a negative pressure. So if you lose a miner, you're not going to have all the miners around it overheating because the hot air is bleeding out. So, the amp box is good. It is cheaper, easier to deploy. But I still prefer like a custom built structure. And I think our next expansion, which will be another 15 megawatts, will be a prefabricated building.
How many boxes can you run off of 1 megawatt? Just out of curiosity.
1 megawatt?
2 amp boxes.
Yeah, probably about 2. Okay, all right. Your question, Scott. Sorry.
Yeah, it completely escapes me. But we'll change the topic a little bit here, maybe a little controversial. But we have a viewer on YouTube right now asking what miner is better, the M20S or the S17 Pro. Obviously, they're two very different machines.
Yes, please.
What do you think, Brad?
Minds want to know. Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to look at the M20S yet. Have you?
I have, yeah. Look, it comes down to personal preferences, I guess. And, every miner's kind of veered away from the standard form factor. I think that the S17 is the superior product. I do like, from a density perspective, the M20S is going to give you a much higher density for the spot on the rack. But, for guys like me who've spent a lot of money on infrastructure, using a different power plug may seem trivial, but it's a big deal for us to have to go retool all of our racking and change from the C13 to a C19 plug. So I prefer the S17 in the sense that it slides right into 2 S9 slots in our facility, and it just takes up the same 2 plugs that were already there.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference that I've seen. Really, is if you're going to be buying the micro BT M20S or something like that, your farm really has to kind of be built out for that. Otherwise, your existing PDUs might not work. You might be melting wires and everything. And from what I heard from the very beginning was that there were a lot of farms in China, for example, that just weren't very well suited for the M20S, and that the M20S was going to be more for the North American market. I don't know if that was just because of the way that the farms were built out or what. But yeah, I think the S17, definitely you can just kind of plug it in where 2 S9s used to be because of the 2 power cable thing. But the M20S, you definitely have to build your farm more suited for that.
Yeah, and I think if your focus is on how am I going to get the highest amount of density into this certain amount of space, then the M20 might be your better option if that's your primary goal. But if you're doing a retrofit or conversion like we're doing, then S17 is probably the better option. And I think at this point, even now, the efficiency of the S17, particularly the new one, the Pro, the Plus, is superior, watt per terahash wise than the yes.
Yeah, those are coming out to be around what, 72 terahash?
I got a few early batch ones, and they're running between 75 and a couple even running 78.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard yet of the S19? And if so, what do you know?
Nothing, other than it's probably in the works, but you never know.
It is Bitmain. Andy.
Hey.
S19.
Andy.
S19.
Hey, Andy.
Hi, I'm Andy from Bitmain.
He works with Bitmain.
Yeah,
All right.
They want to know if there's S19.
Oh, 19. Oh, honestly, it's really hard to say when it will come. But for sure, we have the cooperation with chip producer. So maybe coming soon. Next month.
And
next year for sure.
Not to put you on the spot, but do you think that might be 5 nanometer, or do you think it might still be 7 nanometer?
Because before it, every time before it's launched, everything is hard to say.
Yeah.
But we also looking forward to say that.
All right, nice to meet you.
All right, thank you, Andy. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, my opinion on that is it'll probably just be a further optimized 7 nanometer.
Okay.
I don't think we're quite ready for 5 yet, but soon.
Yeah.
Maybe a year or so.
I kind of feel like the 5 nanometer might be maybe 2 years away. It's hard to know for sure. Everybody has different.
I mean, really, the I would say the cell phone market kind of leads the industry because they're the biggest consumer from these manufacturers. So
we'll see that come out first with the mobile phones.
We don't have 5 nanometer chips in our iPhones yet, so I don't think we'll see it in miners until that happens.
Yeah, and I saw a recent article, I think, online saying that what was it? Oh, it just escaped my mind. But anyway, that
probably that TSMC just spent a large amount of capital to start R&D plans for 5 nanometer chips.
Yeah, that. Yeah. Oh, and then I also heard that. Well, it was kind of unclear because I didn't understand if the article was saying that Bitmain was using like 3 to 5% of the foundry's capacity, or if that was all ASIC mining, crypto mining chips all put together.
I think it was crypto in general, but yeah, like Apple represented like 80% of their production. So that puts it into perspective that the cell phone market is still quite a bit bigger than the mining market.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's phenomenal to know.
Right. It's definitely growing fast. I don't think Bitcoin mining is going anywhere.
Yeah.
The stuff that we've seen over the last several months is mind blowing, and the stuff you're going to see next year, it's just going to be amazing. It's an industry.
Yeah, and honestly, I think right now, as much as the price may not reflect it, there's a lot of growth happening behind the scenes. And I mean, a lot of people are preparing for the future and the fact that the halving's coming, and it's really growing pretty rapidly, even though the price is kind of stale.
Yeah, the price.
Everybody's holding on to their hats.
Right. Hey guys, can you let our audience know how they can reach out to you guys and get a hold of you guys? I'm sure there are a lot more questions that people have, and we just didn't have the time today to get to everything, but. How can people reach out to you guys and learn more?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm on Telegram. My username on Telegram is MindTrip, and Brett's Hashmonk on Telegram as well.
Okay.
Easiest way to get this.
Telegram. Okay. All right.
And before we go, why don't you tell us one more time a little bit about the company that you have with Brett and Greg, and who the other team member is in that company.
Yeah.
So our other partner is Tobias. He's helping make the contacts with the clients and getting us some of the work arranged. I've been kind of the lead on the tech side of things and managing our guys on site on our project. And it's like I said, it could be used for deployments. We can be used for on-site repairs,
training.
Yeah, training of staff if needed. I also just operate as a consultant in general, so I've helped clients with, network design, facility design. I also have a custom management software that I've developed for running my farm, so we have a couple pilot customers using that. And and pretty much I'm full game crypto now too. I have other businesses, and I just decided to focus full time on this now.
Yeah,
awesome.
I do.
And so Tobias, a lot of people might not know that name, but what other name does he go by?
The
Coin Dad.
The Coin Dad, yes.
Yeah, he's popular on Telegram and Twitter.
Yes.
So we've been doing some pilot missions, as we would call them, on the fixed 256 side over the last 3 months. We've gained a lot of traction already. A few clients we've done work for have been repeat clients and called us back multiple times. We have probably about 9 or 10 guys in the group now that are spread out throughout the U.S. Our claim to fame is that we can have boots on the ground as fast as 24 hours if it's a rush, and we're contract based. So whenever you need us, just give us the scope of work, how many people you need, and we know what we have to bring, and we show up. We bring our own tools. I've got some of my own custom tools that I've developed over all the years of repairing miners. I mean, I had to guess, I've probably repaired over 10,000 miners at this point in my life.
Whoa.
So there's been
That's a lot.
tools and tricks that have been built over the years that we're going to bring with us on our deployments that really give us kind of a competitive edge. We did one project where in 7 days we repaired about 2,000 miners for a customer.
Wow.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Fingers must have been sore.
We're
Yeah.
doing our official launch. Still are doing our official launch 2020. Yeah, I mean, I've actually wore a hole through my glove and through my finger.
This area of the finger right here.
Uh-huh. I know what that's like. Well, hey guys,
Ironic to get on the podcast at this time because we're it's a new year. We're getting ready to get started and everything too. So
yeah,
thank you for the opportunity.
I think you guys are going to nail it. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah,
and,
thank you so
we'll
much. Yeah.
see you guys around.
All right. Take care. All right.
Bye-bye. All right, so be sure to visit novablock.com and check out their mining pool. On the top right-hand side of their website, go to the sign up button, and when you're filling out the form, use the invitation code OFFORD18, OFFORD18. Thanks to our sponsor, NovaBlock.